So we have an update here for you. We previously discussed that the state legislature is haggling over a new district and trying to figure out where to put it. Because of the census, Oregon picked up an extra legislative district. Both parties are trying to gerrymander this to their favor, obviously, and Oregon Senate approved 2 proposals and sent it back to the House. Each of these proposals, kind of one of them favored the Republicans, one of them favored the Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
So there was supposed to be a 3-day special session that got cut short. The House Speaker, Democrat Tina Kotek, pulled out of a deal giving Republicans equal weight on a crucial redistricting committee, and then has created separate committees, essentially creating 2 tracks for the Democratic map to get to the floor and voted on, and almost all but eliminating the Republican map from ever seeing the light of day. The vote that was supposed to happen earlier this week was canceled due to a COVID-19 concerns, but Republicans may walk out in an attempt to deny the Democrats a quorum. So, Dane, Oregon Democrats are kind of doing some super shady shit here, where they're like, "Oh, we're gonna give you guys equal say here, but also kind of not," and then slowly walk back and be like, "Oh, we're just basically running our own maps, and you guys can fuck off." On the one hand, I understand the drive to maintain power, right? But and keep the Republicans from taking any ground. Do you think that it would be understandable if the Republicans walked out to keep a quorum from forming?
I said it in Texas. I said that the Democrats were doing their job by walking out and stopping a quorum from being created. I think the same is true here. I think my issue is with the system, not more than it is with the people playing their role in the system. Like, I get it. You're gonna walk out to stop the quorum. Like, it makes sense. Like, if I'm looking at your objectives and your tasks, that makes sense. I think it goes further and further to prove how fucked up and power hungry this system is.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, the Democrats and the Republicans neither party gives 2 fucks about their constituents. Both just want more power for their party in the national field, and they'll do whatever they have to get it. And don't worry about what the people want. Don't worry about where the people live. Don't worry about population or separation of district via population. None of that matters. These parties just want power.
And so in order to maintain or to try to get power, the Republicans are going to likely walk out. It's not going to do anything, though. Just like the Democratic walkout didn't really, didn't do anything.
It sucks how little genuine honor and commitment to the actual job there is in politics anymore. It's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, I would say that I agree with you that they are doing their job per se.
Yeah.
I don't think they're representing their constituents well.
That's not their job. Their job is to maintain a seat of power or gain a seat of power by any means necessary. They're in a 2-party political system in the United States of America. That's their job.
Yeah. So, well, my follow-up was going to be, it was okay in Texas, but we already addressed that.
Yeah.
So
as soon as you said it, I'm like, well, I can't wishy-wash here.
Yeah.
I can't say it was cool for the Democrats to do in Texas and not say it's okay for the Republicans. I mean, that's why the process has names for it. That's why there's something called a quorum. It's like, because people do this shit.
So how do you think the Democrats should respond?
Work your ass off to get a couple Republicans to hang around.
I mean, should we? Because we are always critical of Democrats of striking deals with Republicans.
Yeah, I don't think we should strike a deal with them. I don't think Democrats should strike a deal with them in this particular case. I did take a look at the Democratic map is very unbalanced.
It's super janky.
Like, the entire west or eastern 2/3 of the state is basically one district, and that's not cool.
Yeah.
The shitty part about it is they could give them 2. How many districts are there total now?
There's 6 now.
So they could give them 2 districts in the East, and they'd still have the majority.
Mm-hmm.
But like it's a point of gross, disgusting pride at this point that they're like, you guys get 1 district for this entire group of people, and I don't think that's right. I think it takes away the voice of a lot of people who live in the eastern 2/3 of the state.
Yeah.
I don't get me wrong. I understand the population difference between the western coast of the state and the eastern 2/3. I get it, but at it's not 1 district's worth of people that live in that area.
I think my biggest problem here is the Democrats not coming in good faith.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like
that's my big issue.
That's the big issue here, is that the Democrats like showed up and the Senate approved 2 maps, and the Democrats did everything in their power, in the majority, to not let the voices of some of their of some of the people in their state be heard.
Well, because when you make up the majority of representatives in your state, it's like your constituents are no longer just the people in your district. Your constituents are the entirety of the state.
Yeah,
when you have that super majority like that, your job is to represent everybody in that state, not just the people who voted for you.
And we've been super critical of other states, particularly red majority states, that do the exact same shit, and it's not fair. And for the sake of fairness, is not not appropriate for us to be here saying like, oh, it's okay when the Democrats do it, but not okay with the Republicans do it.
We as a show just condemn this power hungry behavior, and we condemn this era that politics is in, where it's power for your party. It needs to be refocused on your constituents, on the people
and the policies,
and the
right?
policies
like
that help the people in these situations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
that's
from either party. I know we tend to side with Democrats, but that's because that's as far left as the spectrum goes in our country.
Yeah.
Believe you me, we're all the way on this side, but the fact of the matter is Democrats in this country do fucked up shit all the time. It's a fucking horrible party.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And we will call that out at every point that we get the opportunity. So
just like we call out Republicans
absolutely,
for doing absolutely batshit nationalist shit.
It's the whole reason we say there needs to be a third party, because there's no possible way to combat these 2 parties just power grabbing without a third party.
Exactly. And what the third party does is it splits, it is going to take some from the Republicans, it's going to take some from the Democrats, and make them actually have to, make all 3 parties have to work together in order to actually gain a consensus and gain a majority. And that's what the country really needs right now, because otherwise we're going to stay locked at odds like this. And even that third party system very well might not work. Like, we might be too far screwed at this point to actually fix this without drastically changing the Constitution.
Very
which will
true.
Only happen. A constitutional convention will only happen at the tail end of a civil war.
Yeah.
Like, that's
certainly
that's the only way that we get a constitutional convention again.
Yeah. I just think the institutions that keep politicians in the bourgeoisie are too deeply rooted.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, like Citizens United v. FEC, like legalizing bribery, I talk about that pretty frequently. But it's a huge issue, like,
absolutely,
and it helps entrench the political class and the bourgeois class as one and the same. You want to know what was really funny is I had a conversation with my mom last night, and she was saying that she doesn't think classes exist in America. She was like, yeah, when I think of classes, I think of like like high society, like the UK, or like a political class of a political dynasty or something like that. And my response was the Kennedys. Like,
for real,
like that meets like all your definitions here.
Was your mom born here, or was she born in Taiwan?
Yeah,
she was born in Taiwan.
Yeah,
right?
she moved here when she was like 17, 18.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, to her credit, like the places that do have like entrenched class systems are a lot more open about their class systems in Eastern Europe and Asia than they are here. Like our as a nation, we do our best to kind of like cover up the class issue in
That's
the U.S.
Yeah, that's neoliberalism.
Yeah, exactly. So, she definitely comes from a place where if there where there are class systems, it's way more obvious and
Yeah.
like broad and like so. Yeah, to think that comparatively there aren't really classes, I can see where she's coming from.
Oh, absolutely. I don't disagree with it. It's
Interesting though the
yeah, I
the
just
difference
never
by
thought. I
generation.
just never thought of thought of it from that perspective. I was like, whoa, I like I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
You're wrong, but like I get where you're coming from.